In a quiet London neighborhood stood a small house, always warm, with the smell of baked treats and laughter, the Darling family's home. In the evenings, when the upright clock in the parlor struck its measured beat, Wendy would tug her brothers John and Michael under a plaid blanket and spin stories that glittered like stars about a boy named Peter Panther Boy who never grew up, who lived in the land of Neverland. Whenever Wendy described chases with pirates or moonlit pools that glowed, the boys' eyes grew wide, as if they might lift right off the windowsill. One night, while their parents were out at a party, the nursery window clicked open. A breeze drifted in, carrying the tang of sea salt and the tiniest bell-like chime. Peter Pan touched down on the rug as lightly as a leaf, and perched on his shoulder was a mischievous streak of Light Tinker Bell, the little fairy who was quick to jealousy and not good at hiding it. Peter had come to reclaim his unruly shadow, snatched by Nana, the nurse dog, on his last visit. The shadow skipped about the room like a stubborn kite. Wendy sat carefully, threaded her needle, and stitched, murmuring, "Hold still, or the stitches will go crooked." Peter held his breath. When the final stitch drew tight, the shadow clung to his heels as if it had never strayed. Peter smiled a smile brighter than the moonlight. In thanks, Peter invited the 3 children to Neverland. All it takes is a pinch of fairy dust. And a happy thought, he said. Tinker Bell pouted, but she still flicked her hand. The glittering dust settled on hair and shoulders. Wendy thought of home and the stories she would write. John imagined naval battles. Michael hugged his teddy bear. That was enough. They felt light as thistledown, second star to the right, and straight on till morning. Peter cried. The window became a launch pad as they skimmed past Big Bennett's hands raised in a courteous wave through clouds as thin as spun sugar, leaving behind London's neat rows of rooftops. Neverland appeared not so much like a place as a feeling, the feeling that anything could happen. Its shorelines curled to cradle the sun, cliffs rose like sails catching wind. In the forest, leaves chuckled whenever someone dropped a secret. There lived the Lost Boys' children, tumbled from prams with no one quick enough to catch them, gathered up by Peter. There was the Mermaid Lagoon, clear as a mirror. The proud tribe of Princess Tiger Lily, swift and sure as a flying arrow. And like a permanent storm cloud, there were the pirates of Captain Hook, his iron hook, where a hand had been pursued always by a private dread. The crocodile that had swallowed a clock, so that whenever it drew near, Hook heard the dreadful tick-tock, tick-tock. From the first evening, the Lost Boys called Wendy Mother. She told stories by the fire, mended sleeves torn by tree climbing, soothed scraped knees with little London lullabies. Peter perched on a beam, listened with a pretense of indifference, but his eyes softened. Tinker Bell bristled. Seeing Peter smile at Wendy's tales made her jealousy crackle like dry tinder. In a rash moment, she tricked the Lost Boys into shooting an arrow at the great big bird that had arrived. The arrow grazed. Wendy dropped onto a cushion of moss. Thankfully, she was only stunned. When the truth came out, apologies tumbled over one another, and Tinker Bell slipped into a foxglove bell. Her tinkling suddenly sharp with bitterness. Neverland turned their days like pages in a book of adventures. They crept to Mermaid Lagoon and nearly got pulled into a game of mermaid tail chasers butterfly. They followed footprints in the sand to rescue Princess Tiger Lily from Hook's hideout, where torchlight jittered along the iron curve of his hook. Hook hated Peter the way he hated the youth that had abandoned him. Each time he heard the clock inside the crocodile, his throat tightened and the hook drifted unbidden to shield his heart. Amid the laughter and the chasers, homesickness threaded in. Wendy began to dream of her mother's white curtains billowing in the breeze and of her father's dinners with a hint of mint. John missed the map case and quill pens. Michael missed Nana's Jingle Bell collar. One night, when she finished a story called Coming Home, Wendy said to Peter, "Tomorrow we must go." Peter turned his face away and, as if joking, said, "Grown-ups are all like that." "Go, then I'll find some other children." But Tinkerbell, who knew Peter better than he knew himself, heard the hollowness behind the paint of his words. On hearing the children would leave Neverland, Hook set his grand design. He ambushed them, snaring Wendy, John, Michael, and the Lost Boys. On the deck of the Jolly Roger, Hook croaked with glee, "Choose piracy and live or walk the plank." He left a ribboned gift in Peter S. Homer ticking bomb with a false letter of apology. Tinkerbell discovered it by chance. The hands were racing. With no time to think, she hugged the bomb and shot out through the door, a solitary streak of light across the sky. The blast bounced off the cliffs. The glow went out. For a breath, Neverland seemed to falter. Peter collapsed. For the first time, he felt small. Then, remembering what Wendy always said about belief, he stood, pressed his ear to the wind, and called to the world, "If you believe in fairies, clap your hands." At first came a single clap from far away, then another, and another hundreds thousands from nurseries in London, from windows in Paris, from riverside homes where the moon rippled in the water. The applause moved in waves over Neverland. Inside, a cracked foxglove bell, a blue-green glow, stirred, trembled, and flared. Tinkerbell opened her eyes weak, but smiling a small, valiant smile. There was no time to lose. Peter shot to the pirate ship. The final duel was a fierce dance, sword against hook, ropes whistling, sails booming. Hook fought while hearing that tick-tock in the wind-no crocodile nearby this time. It was his own time, the growing up he could never outrun. Peter turned the hook aside, sprang to the masthead, bowed like a stage actor, then swept down to neatly disarm him. The captain staggered and toppled overboard, and there, a long snout and a waving tail waited. The ticking sounded for real. Hook paddled in a panic. The crocodile sighed with pleasure, as if reunited with a favorite toy. Thanks to fairy dust, the Jolly Roger was light as a gull. Peter set his hand to the wheel, and Tinkerbell traced a sparkling circle around the mast. The ship left Neverland and sailed the sky. On deck, Wendy stood among the Lost Boys' faces, no longer lost. because someone had called them sons. London welcomed them with thin mist and the bells of early morning. The nursery window swung wide as the ship swept past. They leapt inside and felt the familiar floorboards like the first step into a new season. Mr. and Mrs. Darling gathered their children, eyes bright with joy and bafflement. When the lost boys lingered shyly on the threshold, Mrs. Darling opened her arms as one opens a house. A home already warm grew warmer still. John and Michael spoke of maps yet uncharted and stars yet unnamed. Wendy stood by the window, knowing she had grown a little, but that a corner of her heart would always be Neverland. She promised to write it all down, not only to remember, but so other children might learn to fly. On the last night, Peter hovered at the sill, the wind combing his tousled brown hair. "Wendy," he said, "I'll come back." She nodded. "And when you do, I may be telling stories to other children. I may be different, but the story about you, the boy who never grows up, will be the same." Peter smiled a bright, slightly wistful smile and shot into the sky, a small streak vanishing among the stars. Afterwards, in the Darling house, evenings filled with laughter, the scratch of a pen, and now and then the tapping of wind at the window. The lost boys grew into people who knew how to care. Tinker Bell still dropped by, leaving a dusting of sparkle across the pages Wendy wrote. And Peter he remained in Neverland, where the sand keeps no footprints of time and every sunrise is brand new. A lesson for children and for those already grown. Imagination is the pair of wings that lifts us out of sadness. Courage makes us strong. But family, the love of parents and of those we cherishes, the harbour we return to. Adventure is wonderful, but the warmest place is always the home where someone waits to hear. Today I flew